Wizards of the Coast recently unveiled some illustrations for the upcoming 50th anniversary edition of D&D, including the cover for the Player's Handbook. That's pretty major news. I've been spending some time looking at this cover illustration. I've been thinking about it, soaking it in. I've also been talking with you all and with some friends to get some different points of view, some different opinions about it. This artwork was created by the highly talented Tyler Jacobson, who also did the cover art for the 2014 Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide, as well as the covers for Storm King's Thunder and Volo's Guide to Monsters. So what do I think of this new PHB cover? Well, I have some mixed feelings about it. I wish I didn't. I wish I could just love it. There are aspects of it that I do think are good, and there are other aspects of it that just don't work for me. That's too bad. I will preface this all by saying that any criticisms that I have are not a knock against Tyler Jacobson. And Mr. Jacobson, if by chance you happen to watch this video, I hope you can take my criticisms constructively. And I also do understand that you are doing your job. You're fulfilling an art order and you're working with the art direction given by Wizards of the Coast. I also am an artist, and my work is likewise subject to criticism and scrutiny, so I'm bearing that in mind. So here I go. The 2014 PHB cover was also a mixed bag for me, though not as much as this new one. The 2014 one is also a great piece in many ways. It has a very attractive color palette. It's hot, it's fiery, there's energy and tension. It's a desperate fight. It's that razor's edge moment that we all live for in D&D, when the characters are one dice roll away from extraordinary victory or extraordinary defeat. It's brutal. So much is on the line. It kind of sucks that the fire giant, King Snur, takes up so much more of the image than the characters do, and I've always been slightly confused as to what exactly the mage or druid woman is doing, but otherwise, it is a fantastic illustration. It has power. It has focus. We can clearly understand what is going on, and it immediately grabs us. The 2014 PHB cover, this new one, doesn't have that. Your eyes jump around or you get overwhelmed. You don't know exactly what to focus on. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. There are some amazing examples of fantasy illustrations that have a big scene with lots of figures and lots of things going on. The first example that comes to my mind is the Hero Quest cover by Les Edwards. It has to be one of the best fantasy illustrations of my time. It's also a busy image. But in this case, we get this barbarian warrior in the forefront. It allows us to have that initial focus. It grabs us. It's organic in that way. And then once we just get drawn into it naturally, then we can start touring through the battle scene and all the various characters and the monsters engaging in their struggle for dominance. The new PHB cover doesn't exactly give an initial focal point. Maybe the gigantic gold dragon? Is it about to attack the characters from behind? Or is it their ally? I think it's their ally. But doesn't that take agency away from the heroes when there's an ancient gold dragon on their side? It might even be a gold great worm because the size of it is just so tremendous. The dragon looks a bit feline and somewhat inspired by Eastern Asian mythology, which I think is cool. The gold dragon has always been that way in D&D. You know, the more I look at this, the more it looks like the gold dragon is staring right at us. Is it supposed to be breaking the fourth wall? It's a cluttered image, but after looking it over for a bit, the clutter does calm down some, and my eyes start picking out different elements. There's a lot of color, a lot, and vibrant. This has to be one of the most colorful RPG book covers that I've ever seen. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I guess in a way it's kind of both. I enjoyed the color schemes, those set color schemes of the 3 original core rulebooks in 5e, with the orange and red Player's Handbook, the blue and black of the Monster Manual, and the purples of the DMG. That monster manual cover is metal, by the way. It really evokes the terror and the power of suddenly encountering a beholder when you are too low of level. This new PHB is like every color all mashed together. But there are some beautiful hues in there. If you can zoom in or focus in on just certain sections of it at a time, there are some really, really nice colors to take in. The gold and cream and white of the dragon and all of its tendrils and scales really is magnificent. And the colors of this topmost figure are a joy to my eyes, with the contrasts of the darks and the neutrals against those two colors of highlights from the two different sides. I think she's a sorceress and an elf, maybe? Or maybe it's a new race in the upcoming Player's Handbook, like a African mythology-inspired elf. There isn't really any black in this piece, but rather the shadows are done in very dark tones of blues, purples, and browns. This fits with the richly colored aesthetic, though it does keep the tone on the light side of things. It's powerful in the sense of upbeat or optimistic or pop. That's the word that keeps coming to my mind when I think about the current state of D&D. Pop. Like a Pepsi commercial or a Marvel or Disney movie. It's the Taylor Swift and the Maroon 5 and the Coldplay of D&D. It captures the biggest market audience possible. It's what they believe is the safest business move. And business moves always involve some kind of risk. So what's the upside with pop? Appeal to the largest number of people possible and make a diverse variety of people feel welcome and represented. What's the downside? It becomes faker, more commercialized, more corporatized, and it betrays and alienates the older customers who prefer a grittier aesthetic, a more historical or grounded aesthetic, people who want rock, not pop. Look at the 3E Player's Handbook cover. This says, "A wondrous tome discovered in an ancient mythical world." Look at the 4E cover. This says, "Stylized RPG characters exploring a dangerous cave." Look at the Pathfinder cover. This says, "Stylized RPG characters fighting for their life against a deadly dragon inside of an ancient ruin." Look at the 2014 cover. This says, "A perilous, desperate fight against a legendary giant in his volcanic lair." Now look at the 2024 cover. This says, "A corporate committee made sure all the boxes got checked." It overloads the image. It's too busy. It's too many cooks spoiling the broth. It's too much like cosplayers posing for a photo op. I'm also left wondering, where is that sense of deadly danger and the possibility of a tragic defeat? They're just fighting kobolds and they have an ancient gold dragon on their side. Oh wait, there's an enemy dragon. Look down there. There's a red dragon. You can see part of his head below the Player's Handbook lettering. Well, how can we take this threat seriously when we can barely even see it? It's not even important enough to be given proper space on the cover. It's getting cut off by the edge and the lettering goes on top of it. It doesn't even have its whole head in view. It's definitely a smaller dragon than the ancient gold or the gold great worm, which is just so much bigger. However, could it be that there is another enemy? Something even greater and more threatening lurking off the edge of the cover? What is that sorceress looking at? Her attention and her spell casting is focused to her right, not down off the bridge where the red dragon is. The blue paladin or rune knight seems to be looking in that direction too. The redhead cleric is looking at us. Is she also breaking the fourth wall? The ranger woman is looking at the red dragon, that's for sure, and the dwarf is looking at the kobolds. I wish this cover would have been this dwarf front and center, cleaving through kobolds with his axe, and at the same time trying to not get overwhelmed. Sure, you could put another character or two nearby, but I have to ask, when will the dwarf warrior get his long overdue spotlight. I just noticed this. Is his shield just hanging from his shoulder? That's odd. But I'm really wondering, what in the world are the sorceress and the blue guy looking at? Could it be on the back cover? Maybe when we turn the book over, we behold some fearsome, epic monstrosity about to tear into the party because they were foolish enough not to stay behind the freaking ancient gold dragon. Oh, they've actually released the back cover art as well, and it's an unrelated piece. It's a party riding on the back of a massive copper or maybe bronze dragon. So what are these two covers trying to communicate? D&D, a game in which your party gets saved deus ex machina by gigantic metallic dragons. D&D, a clean, bright, shiny, digitized game of pop fantasy. In some ways, this cover is quite good, and I know that some people will really like it a lot. They will like the vibrant colors that appeal to the eyes, like a banquet of every kind of delicious food, or a treasure chest overflowing with precious gems and polished coins. Or some people really do like just a generalized fantasy, a sort of everyone can fill in their own blank, high magic, modern power fantasy. In other ways, this new cover just doesn't grab me. It tries to grab me, and from a technical standpoint, it is very impressive. Tyler Jacobson clearly poured a ton of time and effort into producing this, and I really, really know how much work goes into these creative projects. I hope he's been handsomely rewarded for his work here. But it just doesn't win my heart. It overwhelms me because it's so cluttered. It confuses me because it's hard to tell what's going on. All I know is it's a bunch of modern fantasy characters thrown together with a colossal dragon behind them. It makes my head and my heart get wrung around with conflicting feelings. And well, my friends, that is how this new version of D&D is going to be. A mixed bag. Some things will be better and improved and a real joy to use in our adventures. And other things will be wonky or contrived or forced or just kind of soullessly sterilized. Other things are going to be, unfortunately, incoherent. I just hope that we're going to be taking more steps forward than we do backward. Whatever happens, I'll be here. I'll keep striving to support the classic spirit of fantasy, never betraying my old school roots, and at the same time, working to pioneer forward with new ideas and creative inspiration. Let's make the best out of this. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I want to say an extra special thank you to everyone who supports me over on Patreon. I appreciate you guys more than I can say. And if you are interested in checking out my Patreon and contributing in that way, there's a link down in the video description. There's also a link to sign up for my free monthly newsletter. I appreciate you all, and as always, may your adventures be many.